I don't know if this applies to all sectors of the activist world, but in the energy realm of activism, there's this spectrum where at one end you're fighting the bad things, and the people who don't know any better are saying, why don't you ever say anything positive? And at the other end is the end where people are researching and developing positive things. But the thing is that those positive things will never have a chance in the marketplace if the bad things are not stopped. So part of our function is to stop all these bad things in order to make space for the good things to happen. If cheap natural gas and cheap coal and excessively subsidized nuclear reactors all get built and provide all of our electricity, then where will the demand be for wind and solar? So I'm in the muck. We're fighting the dirty stuff. And I hope you do too, all of you. So I want to give you a picture of energy. I don't know if any of you are energy experts, but the energy picture in the US is divided into three main sectors. One is electricity production, which is dominated by nuclear, coal, and increasingly natural gas. One is the transportation sector, which is almost all oil. So whenever you talk about, I don't know, new nuclear reactors, it's going to help our energy independence. Bullshit. Because energy independence, when you're talking about transportation, and they talk about it in terms of how many cars are going to take off the road, completely fallacious comparison. Because the oil is what is driving our transportation sector. No pun intended. And we are not going to get away from oil in our cars until we've converted to electric cars. No need to have completely clean electric infrastructure in order to not be, having coal at the smokestack and a clean battery in our cars. Clean batteries are another research thing that needs to develop over on promoting the goods end. Okay, so electricity, transportation, and the heating sector is the one that's most relevant. Well, electricity and heating sectors are the most relevant to natural gas, because natural gas dominates the heating sector in the commercial and residential areas completely. And that's only going to increase as the boom goes on and gas continues to be cheap until that bubble bursts. How many people think that this excessive investment in natural gas by competing companies is going to end much sooner than they think, and they're going to go to the government saying, can you bail us out, please? We invested too much money, and there's actually not enough gas coming out of the ground to cover our costs. Please? Yeah? You think that'll happen? Me too. And if I could find my notes on that, I could tell you why, but I'll approach after or ask during Q&A, and I'll try to dig up the references for it. I want to talk about the idea of transition fuels, because I'll bet you've all heard natural gas talked about as a transition fuel. Has anyone not heard this? No, everyone's heard transition fuel. This is also bullshit, because it takes such an investment in new infrastructure to have natural gas replace coal or replace nuclear, that sunken cost is going to mean that everyone involved in the industry is going to need that to run for as long as it possibly can in order to get back the money that they put into it. So as a transition fuel, natural gas is a terrible idea. It's also a terrible idea with nuclear. The investment in that is even more huge, and the insurance required is even bigger. If you get me onto nukes, I can talk for a while, but I'll try to resist. Anyway, one of the problems with the natural gas industry right now is that it is all in the investment sector. And that means that there's lots of competing companies doing lots of irresponsible things in order to get the quick buck before someone else does. And that is the opposite of planning and caution and scaling things to what is actually useful as opposed to scaling things to what's most profitable. And in that sense, I think that it's worth having a discussion of taking the energy sector out of the profit-making realm. and getting that under government control. Has everyone heard about deregulation in the electric sector, which happened like, I don't know, 12 years ago, 15, even more than that? Okay, that's when the government decided, at the persuasion of for-profit electric companies, that it would be a good idea, it would be cheaper if electricity production were competitive instead of controlled by the PUC, the Public Utility Commission. So, a lot of states deregulated their electricity sector. California, most famously, it led to brownouts, blackouts, millions and millions and millions of dollars spent by the government to buy expensive electricity on the spot market because they couldn't get enough otherwise. And just a little side segue here. Gray Davis, who was the controller in California and recently became governor when that debacle happened. Oh God, I've talked for 10 minutes already. He was about to sue the electric companies when he was deposed as governor and replaced by Schwarzenegger. So California could have gotten that money back if it needs. I've got to say something about Pennsylvania proposals around natural gas. Currently there are proposals for one ethylene cracker, an export terminal in Philly. It probably won't happen. And 9 power plants. Now, electricity production is now the biggest sucker-up of natural gas. And so these natural gas power plants need to be stopped because they are going to be driving demand for natural gas. Unless natural gas gets more valuable on the export market. That's another place where it's ridiculous to talk about natural gas as being for energy independence, as they twist the arms of landowners. It's your patriotic duty to let us fracture the gas under your property, because it leads to energy independence. But not if we can make a bigger buck selling it overseas, which is what's driving the export terminals. 7 years ago, they were import terminals, because natural gas was so expensive here that we were going to be importing more and more. And we actually helped fight an import terminal in Philly, and now they're export terminals. And the former import terminal proposal in Philly is now an export proposal. But we've heard recently that Cove Point got approved, so that means that Philly probably won't. Anyway, that's my 10 minutes. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Tracy. Our last speaker is Daniel Adam, an anti-war and civil liberties activist from Connecticut. He's also a writer for Socialist Action newspaper.